Are you ready to do a review of some Woodinville distillery only special releases? Let's go. Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for this special review of a distillery only release from the Woodinville Whiskey Company of 3 different variants of smoked barrel releases. They had the Maplewood, the Applewood, and the Sweet Peat. Now I've got the Applewood and the Maplewood. The Sweet Peat, I didn't buy one of those, but I'm using a sample from Marvin's Barrel to do this review for you guys, just to see what Woodinville had offering for us this morning. Now, based off the names, Applewood, Maplewood, and Sweet Peat, I already had in mind which one I thought I was going to like better. And a lot of other people in line thought the same thing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try these blind. I'm going to pour these in glasses that are labeled on the bottom. I'm going to try them side by side to see if I was right. That just based off somebody else's description and the name, if the one that I thought I was going to like better is the one that I'm going to like better. So let's find that out together, because I know when you look up a whiskey and see the flavor profile notes that somebody else wrote down on a website or something, you might think you would prefer that over something else you're looking at. But I want to test that out. So let's test that together. Now, all 3 of these variants are 100 proof, so there's not an extra variable of their all being different proofs. All 3 of these are 100 proof. Alright, so I'm going to crack the seal with you here. Alright, so I'm switching these all around so I don't know which one is which, and I'm going to try those blind, but I'm going to let them breathe for a minute while I have a little talk with you about etiquette, because I want to get your guys' opinion on what you think proper etiquette is when you're standing in a line. Because when you're standing in a line and you're really close to people, it's really hard not to hear what other people are talking about. Now, it's impolite to eavesdrop. We can all agree on that. Eavesdropping is kind of rude. But when you're standing in line and there's a group of people having a discussion about something, is it rude for you to join in that discussion? Because you could make some new friends, get some new contacts, do some networking. But also when it comes to line etiquette, is it rude to save a spot for somebody? And I want your guys' honest opinions. Please put it in the comments below. Because if you're at a bar or a restaurant to where there's limited seating, is it rude to save a spot for somebody? No, like you've got somebody meeting you there, and so you're saving them a seat. Just like if you're at a ball game or a concert or something like that, if you get there before the people you are meeting there, you might save them a seat if it's not assigned seating. So you're saving a spot for somebody who's meeting you there. Nobody considers that rude. But for some reason, people think it's rude to save somebody a spot in line. Because that happened to us this morning. Troy Man got there before I did. And so he saved me a spot in line while I was parking my car and whatnot. And then when I get up to the line and I'm like, hey bud, good to see you. Because our whole plan was to meet at this event. And the person behind us got butthurt that he saved me a spot in line. He said there's people behind us, so it'd be more appropriate for you to get in the back of the line. And I said, no, but we are together. He was saving my spot, just like he's saving me a seat. And so just because he got here first, he was saving my spot. And the guy behind us said, yeah, I know, but you just got here and there's people behind us that were here before you. So the right thing to do would be for you to get in the back of the line. And I'm like, I see your logic, but we are together and he was saving my spot. So I want to get your guys' honest feedback. Leave it in the comments. Is saving a seat at a concert or a theater or a sporting event or at a bar where there's limited capacity, is that really different than saving somebody's spot in line? And so what I did is I offered to let the guy go in front of me. Like, hey, do you want to go ahead of me so you can order before I order? And he said, no, I'm good. And so I said, well, okay then. Alright, so enough about that. I think these whiskeys have been breathing for long enough. Let's go ahead and get into them. Alright, glass number 1. Ooh, I got some really sweet root beer barrel candies on the nose. That kind of sugary vanilla smell like the root beer candies have. Smells nice and pleasant. Cheers, guys. There's definitely a sweetness that hits you right up front. There's a little bit of a citrus tanginess to it, but there's also a creamy frosting going on in the middle of the palate. The second sip came off a little bit darker, not as much of the bright vanilla citrus up front, but a little bit darker, a little bit more wood, a little bit more of that smokiness is coming through on the second sip. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. Let's move on to glass 2. Let me rinse out my palate real quick. Alright, the nose on glass 2 has more of a cherry cough syrup and wood chips. It still smells good and inviting though. Let's get into the palate. Cheers. This one is much more smoky than the first glass. The smoke is thicker, like almost like you can bite the smoke. Oh man, that's good. I'm betting this one is the sweet peat just because the smokiness has that kind of funk to it. Oh man, that's interesting. That's a really good pour. Let's move on to glass 3. Just what I'm getting off the nose, it's thicker, stickier. It's not necessarily lighter or darker. It's in the middle of that spectrum, but it has a more like sticky candy nose to it. Let's get in the palate. Cheers. Ooh. Alright, the candy from the nose definitely translates to the palate. It's darker and richer than glass 1, but the smoke isn't as prevalent as it is in glass 2. I think glass 3 has the best balance of glass 1 and 2 combined. Like it has some good smokiness to it and some good dark, rich flavors to it, but also has some bright candy as well. But I don't think bright is the right word for this candy. This candy is a darker candy. Alright, I'm going to have to rinse out my palate and do some more like quick side-by-side sip, sip, sip and see if I can really rank these. Because right now I'm thinking 3, 1, 2. But let me do some quick side-by-sides real quick. I'm going to put you in fast forward. Alright, the glasses got all switched around. Glass 2 had the heaviest smoke presence, and that was a little overwhelming all the other notes. It had a great balance to it, and I really liked it. But compared to the other two, I didn't like it as much. So glass 2 got 3rd place. Now glasses 1 and 3, I liked them really equally, and I went back and forth many times to kind of figure out what I liked about each one of them. And the bright candy and then the dark smoke on glass 1 was a really cool contrast. But glass 3 had a darker candy note and not as much smoke. And so I found that one to be easier to drink. So let's go in reverse order of preference. 3rd place is the Sweet Peat. As I thought, it's the most smoke forward of the 3. Considering it was aged in a smoked peat barrel, I really like the balance of it, and I'm not a big peat fan, so that says a lot. This is a really good pour if you were lucky enough to get one of them. 2nd place is the Maplewood. I thought the Maplewood was going to get 1st place based on the description. The description seemed right up my alley, something I would love, but Maplewood got 2nd place. That means the Applewood was the one that had the darker candy notes and a little bit less smoke, so it was just easier to drink. The sippability factor is right where my palate aligns to where I could just drink this. But the Applewood and the Maplewood were very close contenders. It might just depend on what day of the week it is on which one I prefer. But I'm very glad we were able to get our hands on these special distillery only releases. They are truly something special. Oh, and any of you Patreon members, if any of you want a sample of these, shoot me a message on Patreon and let me know that you'd be interested in trying a sample of these guys, and I will send you samples of them because they are really good, they're really interesting, they're fun to drink. The only downside is that you won't be able to order your own bottle of it. Alright guys, thanks for joining me for this review, and remember to jump in the comment section and put in your opinion about our discussion about etiquette. Is saving somebody's seat in a first come first serve event really that different than saving somebody's spot in line? Because it seems like people don't mind if you're saving somebody's seat, but when saving their spot in line, all of a sudden people get upset and think you're cutting in line. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to catch on our next review. Earn, protect, enjoy. Cheers.